I'm Libby,
And I'm Susan.
and we're going to tell you about our interesting day on Wednesday. We had to go to the doctor because I had been experiencing some rapid heart rate, and my doctor had asked for me to go ahead and get my blood checked because I had been having some thyroid issues, and we needed to see if I needed to adjust my medicine.
So on Wednesday, we ventured into a city called Slatina, which is 45 minutes away from where we are in Dragonesh in Romania. And we were able to find a translator, and she gave us a ride into the city.
The ride-in was beautiful, and we prayed the whole way there that we would be able to find the clinic easily, and that the doctor would be able to help us, and that what we translated would be understood. We also prayed very hard that we would actually get in to see him because the clinics can be busy because the government hospitals are so overran and not up to par. So the clinic was our best option.
And actually, one of the backup plans that the translator suggested was to go to a government clinic, but we kindly said no.
So anyways, we got to Slatina and finally found a parking place because it's a bustling city, and the parking attendant shorted us our change. Well, when he shorted us our change, our translator began to argue, and she nicely said, "Give us our change back," and he was just appalled that we would ask for our change back, and it was so interesting to us because in America that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it was a different experience. So after that duel was over, we went to what we thought was the clinic. And when we got there, we noticed the doors were locked and there was no one there and nothing inside. And the sign was actually taken down. So we went to the bank, which was right next door, and we asked them if the clinic had moved, and indeed they did move. So they pointed us in the right direction, and we are on our way.
Yep. One thing about the bank is both of us came out saying, it smelled like home. It felt like home. It felt like a real bank. It was so nice. I wanted to sit in there for a good little while and take it all in.
It was comforting, and it was nice and clean.
Yeah, it was nice. So we headed towards what we thought was going to be the clinic, and we just got lost and turned around, and we ended up finding ourselves on a back road. It was dirt, and anyways, we stopped and asked for directions, and they were like, "Yeah, you're going the right way." And we just looked at each other like, "Oh, this is supposed to be the nice clinic, and we're on a dirt road. This just doesn't feel right." But we ended up pulling up to the clinic, and it was beautiful. It was nice and clean, and it was brand new, and its own building, and I felt really good walking inside.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful clinic, and we couldn't find the front door though because they didn't have a front door. We had to enter through the back. And when we entered, we went right to the reception desk, and we noticed that no one was there. So we had a good feeling about getting in.
They didn't even ask for my name. They didn't ask for my age or a HIPAA form or anything that would happen in America. It was wild. We just literally, they told us how much we had to pay, and we walked right into the doctor's office.
Yeah, it's almost like a hair appointment. You tell them what you want, and then they say, "Okay," and go and do it. So they led us into a room that said cardiology on the door. And once we got to the room, there were three of us, the translator, myself, and Libby. The doctor started yelling in Romanian, and we had no idea what he was saying, but we knew he was mad, and he kept pointing to the door. So we figured that it was something to deal with three people being in the room. And our translator was able to finally calm him down, and we were able to have all of us in the room.
Yeah. Once she calmed him down, he turned into this happy old man. He was really nice, and he had this huge book on his desk. I swear it looked like the book of life. And he looked at me, and I could tell he was asking me for my name, and I spelt it out for him, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. And the only thing he asked me before I sat down with him was my name and my age. He didn't ask me my previous experiences or anything like that. So it was really wild that it just was so different. It was so different. Anyway, so he gestured for me to sit down on the table that was covered in red plastic bags, and it was just so different from back home, and it was scary, and it was relieving that we had actually got into the doctor, and so all these emotions were going through me, and so he gestured for me to lay down, and so I laid down, and he pulled out this huge red paintbrush, and it was covered in rust, and
Its bristles
the
were half
bristles
gone.
were clumped together, and it had nasty old ultrasound gel clumped all over it. And he just began to squirt more gel on it, and he lathered it on my neck, and the bristles felt like a straw broom.
Yeah. Didn't look very comfortable.
It was not comfortable. Anyway, so um, we were all sitting there just waiting, and you could tell on his face he was seeing something that was not right, and it was scary. It was scary to hear him talking in Romanian to the translator, and I could tell he was measuring something while he was pushing on my neck, and it was just a very intense moment. I felt like it was eternity sitting there waiting to find out what he was saying. So the doctor began to explain to the translator and to Susan, which is a nurse. He began to explain that there were two lumps or two nodules on either side of my thyroid, and it was very scary because I knew right away that it could be possibly bad. Um, and I didn't know what a nodule was. I didn't know what any of the stuff was. So um, it just hit me all of a sudden, like I'm here in a different country, and I just found out that I could potentially have something very bad. And anyway, so he measured them, and they're about 1 inch apiece um, on either side of my thyroid. And he said that it's not an emergency, but it could cause potential bad side effects, along with the medication that I'm on. Was probably causing the heart rate, and that the side effects could be swelling of the tongue and not being able to breathe and that kind of thing. So we knew it was pretty serious. And he was very nice and gave me a hug in the end, and we left the room. That was it. I had no more information, nothing else to go on except see a specialist.
Yeah, we were very blessed though. We did walk away with some pictures. We thought we would only get a written statement of what he found, but we were able to get the ultrasound pictures.
Right. So we have the pictures, and we ended up naming them later. We named the nodules Nigel and
Nellie.
Nellie, the nodules.
The nodules.
You get to that point where you're quite delirious out in the sun after a while, and after so much emotional baggage, and you
gotta have fun with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you go crazy. So after that, we went to the front desk, and we actually paid for the service. And that was about $60 lei. And
which is $20?
Yeah, around $20. The conversion rate's 3.4 if you want to do it. But yeah, it's around $20 US. So amazing, very inexpensive. And then we went up to the phlebotomy department, and the nurse who actually drew the blood was sitting at the front desk, so she escorted us upstairs, and we didn't have a translator at this point.
And she had just taken my money from me.
Yeah, and then she wanted her to prepay for the next service, so she left her copy of her passport and some additional money downstairs, and we walked upstairs. It was very trusting, but we did it. And so as we went upstairs, we were ushered into another room where another nurse had a big book just like the one downstairs, and they asked for Libby's name and age. When she was done writing that, Libby sat in a chair. It was like a phlebotomy chair that was covered with blue plastic this time, and it actually had a tourniquet that was attached to the chair, and the tourniquet was like a cloth tourniquet. So very different than what we use in the U.S., which would be like a rubber tourniquet. You can tell that this cover for the chair had been used many times because it was ripped, and I stood patiently in the corner just observing, trying to take all this in. And the nurse was wearing no gloves, and Libby was trying to explain to her that her veins roll, and she was trying to show her which vein works the best, but the nurse didn't really understand, nor did she really care. She was already going to work. So she was feeling for a vein after she put the tourniquet on, and didn't wash her hands, had no gloves, like I said. And then alcoholed off Libby's arm just using a store-bought bottle of alcohol. And then she grabbed, it looked like an 18 gauge needle, but it was
It looked like a horse needle.
But Libby thinks it looked like a 14 gauge needle, so which is really large. And the nurse alcohol off the site, and then she continued to touch it with her dirty hand, and then she poked her, but she was a really good poke. So
Yeah, she got it the first
she
time.
did. It was wonderful.
Amazing.
So she filled up the sample vial, and she actually put it in a test tube holder without a label on it, next to some urine samples that were just sitting out in the open. So, and there are other blood samples in that test tube. Also, I hope they give you the right blood back. We should probably pray about that too. So after that experience, oh, and the nurse just threw the needle right in the garbage can too, which of course we don't do in America. It goes in the sharps container. So it was all quite the experience.
So,
And AIDS also is very prevalent in Romania because of something the Soviet Union did about 20 years ago. They contaminated a bunch of needles with AIDS and sent them to children's hospitals. So AIDS is quite prevalent here in Romania due to that. So it is something that the nurses need to be careful of, and healthcare workers.
it was very scary, but at the same time, I've never felt like I needed to trust the Lord more.
Nor I.
So we walked downstairs, and they only asked me for 100 more lei. I think
Yeah.
120 more lei.
120.
Yeah, so
For
we
some
paid
reason they charged us 20 extra.
120, or we paid 180 lei for the whole visit, which equals out to about $80.
Yeah.
At the
No,
most.
it would be less than that.
$60.
60.
American dollars.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the nurses, as soon as she got back down there, lit up a cigarette and was standing there smoking in the office. And we walked out. They took my email address on a scrap piece of paper and told me that they would email me.
Because the results wouldn't come in for 6 days,
Yeah.
and we're actually moving to our next country in 5 days at that time. So they need them emailed to us. So we're waiting on the results. We're pending.
It was a good experience, in the sense that I've learned that I need to be thankful that the Lord has given me the opportunity to be here, and that that He won't relent until He has every part of me. And that revelation came after a lot of tears, and I know that He has prepared a plan for me. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans that I have made for you," and I'm resting in that peace. And we want to ask you to pray for us as we travel to a specialist at the Black Sea. We need prayer that the doctor won't be caught up in any emergencies that day. He won't be able to see us if he has any emergencies. So that's what we leave you with. I'm sorry that it's not better news, but it's exciting that God is still using us, and there's much to be done. There's much to be done in the city, and that's why we're here. We love you, and we thank you for listening to our story.
Yeah, thank you so much. God bless.